Hi, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Paranormally Blonde right here on the X. Before we get started, did you guys know that UNX Network is having a super cool conference, the XCon? It is virtual this year for 2022. It is May 13th through the 14th. This is the best conference if you love UFOs, UFOs on film, UFOs from under the water, extraterrestrial, that word I really hate saying too often. Contact, haunted location, weird locations, Sasquatch. There's even going to be a live paranormal investigation. So they got a really, really cool lineup. Margie Kay, the creator of the UNX network, she will be there. Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, Jimmy Church, Lisa Martin, and a ton more. You can register at www.unxnetwork.com. It is $29 per day to register, but you're going to get a ton of stuff, and we also are going to give away 2 tickets, so stay tuned to find out the details how to do that. I think we want you to go to the Paranormally Blonde Instagram, so if you don't follow us, you need to go there and give us a follow to get the details on how to get the 2 free tickets for the amazing XCon virtual conference, May 13th and 14th. So, okay. I try not to stumble through that a little, but I'm trying to learn all the details. It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. Like, I do know next year they are planning to do in person, but like, seriously, what a great way to like get in there. It $29 a day, and you don't have to do travel, right? You can just go check it out, check out these great people, really check out the show lineup of UNX, because these people are amazing. They've got, they're very, very, these are brainiac people. They've got their stuff together. What did you guys think of the show last week? Pretty cool, right? Like, did you get anybody asking for a dream analysis?
I did. Yeah. I got some people that had caught the show and asked. So that was really cool. And some people send in dreams that are like, it's like a TV episode. It just goes on, and it's like so detailed and so amazing. And so I worked on one for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and it was really hard. Then all of a sudden it started to just fall into place. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is so beautiful. You know, it was interesting.
I love that. Well, and hopefully everybody's taking like your tips. So if you did not catch it, or if you don't remember, go back, rewatch the show, and there's some great slides that Dee Dee did up to help you understand how to pick what you need to pick out of your dreams. Like, it's great. And I noticed, like, after the show, I like became a little bit more mindful of my dreams. I did not do the voice, but I got to figure out how to do voice memo and not interrupt anybody else in the bedroom. Like,
that's true, right?
Right? Like, you know, like, who are you talking to?
What are you talking about?
No worries. Yeah, it was a great show. So I hope everybody takes advantage of that. And I hope everybody heads over to the Haunted Hour podcast to listen to your dream analysis, because super, super cool. So hi. Here we are. It's Monday. Everybody's like, I got a little distracted there. Like, everybody is over there, like, just talking, and I love it.
I'm like trying to catch at the beginning when people started saying. I told everybody to say hi, and then I didn't do it.
Yeah, right. Hi, Sam and Rob and Dee Hood and Maureen and Melissa and Michael. I'm loving it. Is Shane on there too? Did I miss him? Shane's here. So our regulars, our friends, I love. I know, right? Rob just said we have our own show over there, right? Like, we've got our friends of the show are having their own little show, and then there's us. So, all right. So we're gonna pick a random question for the day. I know. So get ready, because we just don't know. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Okay. So, have you ever been suspended from school? Anybody can answer this over in the friends as well here that are chatting. Have you ever been suspended from school?
I have.
Dee Dee. I know Dee Dee was a little punk rocker, so I kind of dig that. Can you tell us what you were suspended for?
Well, it's really bad. I don't know if I should, but I'll tell it. Who cares? So when I was in high school, I didn't want to go. And so back then they just would give you, like, if you didn't show up for school, you would just get a note, right? And so they would write, I gave a fake name, and it was Karen Klein. Okay. It took them 6 months to figure out the Karen Klein was a fake name. Now, anybody in my generation will know how funny that is. because of Calvin Klein, right?
Yeah.
And so finally I got busted. They figured it out. Somehow they figured out it was me.
Oh my.
I was in big, I had like 60 abscesses.
Look, oh my. I can't, you're
right?
bad. Oh my God. Yeah, I was lame. No, never suspended. I never skipped school. Like the worst thing I ever did was forge my mom's name on a progress report. Right. And then finally they figured it out because it was one of those, hey, you do realize that after a while, when you're forging the progress reports and your grades aren't going up, they kind of figure it's not your parents' signature.
Right.
Nobody's
never
really
get a call from mom.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah. So there you go. I think let's see. Melissa says no. Rob, of course. Maureen was expelled. Holy cow. Michael got in school suspension. Yeah. Okay. D Hoot skipped 30 something days in a row. How do you do that? Like, how do you do that?
See, we're kindred spirits then.
That's right.
We would have been hanging out together.
That's right. That's right.
Because I was always looking for people to ditch with me. I would meet at the square and find out who wants to ditch.
Yeah. Yes. No, you're right, Melissa. I am not lame for not getting suspended, but I definitely was one of those kids that I was too worried, but obviously not worried enough to not forge my mom's name. But I was too scared to skip because, that I just thought, I don't even know. What's ISS once for tardies? Oh, in school suspension. Sorry. That's great. Sam got in school suspension too. That's right. That's right. For tardies. Like, that's even worse. Like, really, tardies? Oh my gosh. Awesome. So what's that?
Oh, I was just reading this from Travis. It says adding suspended or expelled.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Hey, Travis. Okay. So we have, I think, a really cool show today. So we brought back Dr. Molnar, and let me tell you something. He is right there with Bill from FTCast. We're like, these guys are going to be gunning for coming on the show the most, but he does so many cool things. Like I just love watching all the stuff that he does. If you guys don't follow Haunted MD, you need to, because he puts out little videos. He's got very thoughtful and mindful questions and like explorations that are just, I love to explore what he's doing. Like he's just got some cool things going on. So he's been going to Hinsdale House here. We're gonna have to ask him how many times, but he's kind of doing this really interesting study on the house, which intrigues me because I've been very vocal about the Hinsdale House. This is a place that my team has been several times. And when I've gone, I got a big fat nothing there. So, but people have big experiences. And so he put a questionnaire out there asking if you've been to the Hinsdale House. These were really interesting questions, and I did not send them to you, Dee Dee. I totally forgot to send you his questionnaire. But such interesting questions. And it seems he is kind of digging into why one person can have a big experience and why somebody does not. So let's bring on Dr. Donald Molnar. Hi, how are you?
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back on. It feels like I just left.
Right, that's right. So you're back. Everybody loves the Haunted MD. You are also, you are also requested. If I say you're coming on, everybody gets super, super excited. So
that means a lot, because sometimes, I kind of go through periods of, being more active and being less active, and you kind of feel like, is anybody really paying attention? And then when I come on your show and some other shows and people say good things, so it's nice. It means a lot to me, really, that you guys pay attention and like it. Try to mix it up with the post and. And stuff like that. So
you are feeling, I think, what we all feel. Dee and I talk about this a lot. Listen, you cannot, to keep up the pace of kind of being in the forefront with everybody that's hard work. I don't even know how anybody can, and I don't think anybody does, because I think some of our most favorite people, you included, they all say the same thing. Is anybody paying attention? How am I not, like, is anybody seeing what I'm doing? Yeah, we do see you, doctor. We are watching you, and your videos are great. You are informative. And I hope that maybe it's like, if you have that many followers, then maybe it's a little too hokey, because like, people like that, like kind of fast paced, like, I don't know. I don't know if they're really digging into the truth. I think the right people are watching. So maybe that's
right.
I think it's a good point, because I think for a while when I first started, my Facebook and even Instagram, I kind of got into that. Oh my God, how many followers? And then your numbers would go up, and then people would stop following you, and that would be like, for me, I think I'm too sensitive at times. That would like, why are they leaving me? You know, what did I do wrong? So now I've kind of like tried to stop paying attention. Although I still notice. Yeah. And you kind of wonder, well, what's the difference between what I do and these people that have a million followers or hundreds of thousands of followers? But you're right, a lot of it is it's usually the people that are on TV or or famous, that kind of thing. So
it's entertainment, and I think that that's just it's a hard thing to figure out. And I don't like to hear that you sometimes question whether people are watching, because that makes me sad. But I'm also going to say that it's a little refreshing, because we do the same thing. It's like,
we all do.
And sometimes I'll think like, okay, is our show really, are we cutting it here? But then people that I don't even realize will be like, oh my God, I want to come on with the blondes. It's like, well, okay. Like,
that's right. That's right.
We're watching.
I think you just got to not pay attention to the followers and just keep, I think what I told myself was I just got to keep doing what I'm doing, putting out stuff that's important to me and that I enjoy and that's good evidence. And, eventually it'll build, and then sometimes too, I wonder with myself, I'm like, how big do I really want to be? Sometimes it's like, you almost got too much stuff going on. You have to and it's hard to say no. You're like, well, don't have time. I got so much stuff going on, but you gotta because I recently had a guy reach out to me. He follows my page. He's posting a lot of good evidence too. And he's like, how do I build my following? I'm like, you just got to keep doing what you're doing and keep, friend other people and, reach out. And I said, I think the biggest thing is don't worry about the numbers and just keep doing what's important to you. And eventually people will catch on to you. And
well, and it's what you love. It's doing what you love, and you will find those people that share that passion. And, honestly, like, here's the thing, you put out, I love when you put out your videos, or, hey, I set something up here, I'm staying the night at the hospital, and you set it up, and that's all. To me, this is like such a great, it's different, right? Not everybody's doing that. And, you have, not that other people don't, this is not a slam and even the slightest, but you just carry a certain integrity about what you're doing. And as Dee Hoot actually is asking here, she noticed, right? Like that, what is your success with old school tools? Like, and I think that's great. Like that you are bringing certain things back to the forefront that, sometimes it's always, we want newer, bigger, and better. And that doesn't really necessarily mean that.
Right. I just try to mix it up, I guess. And, a lot of what I do and post or try is like when I'm curious about, like, kind of going old school is going back to using a tape player for EVPs. And, unfortunately, I haven't got too much. I got to use it more frequently and see if I pick up on anything. In fact, I got some audio from Hinsdale House I got to still go through. We used digital recorders and cassette recorders. So I'm curious to see on the cassette recorders if there was anything that we caught on there. But so I think I just get curious about things. And like today I was thinking about, it'd be cool to take a TV set and just set a TV up and let the white static, how the static, and just let it go and see if anything pops up on that, So I was thinking about that. And so, you just got to go, sometimes the old school stuff works pretty cool.
Yeah. So. I love that. And I love the TV idea, because I don't know if I'd want to I don't know if I want to know. I mean, I remember, I'm a kid of the 70s. I remember falling asleep and then you hearing
the static,
the anthem playing, and then all of a sudden,
Actually, I have a decent sized TV. I use it for my DVR system, but it's it's probably like a 20-inch or 24-inch. It's not real big, so it's easy to take it and set it up and watch it. And it's not like this big bulky thing, or it's not too small.
Right.
So I thought about maybe when I do an inside investigation, maybe I'll, out of curiosity, try that.
Yeah.
But no.
She's specifically asking about the rods and the compass. Do you find success with those?
The compass, not so much yet, but I gotta use it more. The dowsing rod, I've a lot of my friends will use them and get responses, and then I've had some interaction too, because you always got to question whether or not they're, are you moving them or are they moving? And I got a good friend I go out with and investigate, and she always seems to get responses with them. And I've got responses too, and you can feel them moving. In fact, on our public investigations, When we have people come out and pay, we'll have them see if they want to hold the rods and they'll get them moving. So yes, I have had the rods interact. In fact, the very first time I ever used them was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I was using them in a place here in Madison, Virginia, and we actually had the equipment too. We had the K2 meters and those things, and the rods were crisscrossing, and the K2 was going off at the same time. Mm-hmm. It was kind of cool to have that validation when you have 2 or more different modalities, indicating stuff. But we had this pretty cool interaction with a female spirit in this location who had been murdered by her husband. It seemed pretty legit. I'm always a little skeptical, but I'm like, I mean, they were moving, and to my best of my knowledge, I wasn't moving them. So yeah, I've had some pretty good interactions with the rods. I mean, I don't use them as much as some folks do, but I think there's something to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you kind of go towards like what you're feeling that day, right? I mean, I don't know, Dee Dee, do you feel that way? Like sometimes I want to do more EVP work, and sometimes it's more fun to do K2. Although now after the EMF lesson we got, now I'm kind of like, oh. Now I have to go somewhere else and try something else. But I think you just kind of go with what you're feeling, right?
Yeah. No, that's true. So a lot of times it's usually a camera for me, but then sometimes I like really want to break out a ghost box, you know? And then sometimes I just want to be quiet and just like take in what's around.
Take it in. And just so you know, before Dee Dee reads that question or comment, you're getting tons of invites, Doc. I don't know if you're seeing any of this, but like Rob from Get Haunted is inviting you to the Hoover House. They're doing a whole cool Victoria era tool investigation. The first half of the night is all old school. So it is all Victorian.
Yeah, I can't see any of that. They should reach out to me on my Haunted MD or my Instagram, Haunted MD. Yeah.
There you go. So Rob, get on that. You've got Melissa invite. Like everybody's like, hey, come here. Let's see. You are seen. You are validated. People love you. So don't let your numbers.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Dee Hoot says she loves your tripod that you built.
Oh, is that the one from a couple years back where I had all the equipment on it? Is that
a delay?
Yeah, let's see. If she,
and Melissa had asked, is when you use a tape recorder to try to do EVPs, is there like a lot of like noise?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good question. Yeah, we used we're using a couple of different ones at Hinsdale, and at Hinsdale I used one. I even had a separate microphone that plugged into the tape recorder. Actually, where is that? Let me hang on a minute. So I was using this one, and it has a separate separate microphone. And even with the separate microphone, there was a lot of noise. But we didn't catch any EVP, just listening briefly. Mm-hmm. And then I had some smaller recorders too that I got to listen to. But yeah, there was a fair amount of noise. So I got to see how to work on that. Definitely more background noise from the tape, listening to the tape, than if you have a digital recorder. So it wasn't as clear, but you could still potentially hear EVPs and things, I think.
Sure. I mean, think about the ghost box. That thing is so noisy, and we still pull EVPs out of that. So a tape recorder would be easy.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the Hinsdale house.
Yes.
I've been watching you and your trips that you're taking there, and I'm just like, the first time I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what he gets or whatever. And then you do your trips, and then the questionnaire came out, and I went, oh, what is he up to? Like, what are you up to with this Hinsdale house? So when was your first trip to the Hinsdale house?
All right. So yeah, I'll tell you that, but let me tell you, so full disclosure. So the second trip I was invited as a guest.
Okay.
A guy named Brandon Masulo, he's a parapsychologist. He lives in Ohio. He is a psychologist, and he went ahead and got a parapsychology degree at Edinburgh in Scotland, and then he's come back, and he's written books and some articles, so you can look him up, Brandon Masulo. But he wanted to do a project at Hinsdale, basically kind of looking at the idea of haunted houses, and then so he invited me along. So the questionnaire was actually his questionnaire, but we all kind of shared. There was 4 of us guys who went out to the Hinsdale to try to figure out what's going on there. So he's, with parapsychology and any kind of research that you're going to do, you got to have some way to measure or something, some kind of data to collect. So I think with Brandon, with the survey where he was trying to get a baseline of, what kind of experiences are people having now? Because, Clara wrote the book, Clara Miller wrote the book, about her, who was Clara Dandy. So we have this, the book has all these great stories in it. Then it's like, besides that, what are the other experiences people have had, because you see the shows and all that kind of stuff. So the survey is a way to kind of collect data and then also see, who's more likely to experience paranormal stuff. Or is it people are more sensitive in general, or less sensitive, that kind of thing. But to answer your question, so my first time there was about a year ago, actually. It was like a year almost to the date.
Okay.
I went out with Spirits Guide Paranormal, just a regular ghost hunt. And so, yeah, this is my second time through. I gotta say both times there was things that happened, but it wasn't like, like, oh my God, we saw a demon or something,
Right.
There was like, some equipment going off and you heard some footsteps and you heard some disembodied voices and then, those kind of things. So there was some activity, but it wasn't earth shattering, like, like you'd expect. So yeah, it was like April of 21 that I went.
Okay.
And at that time we actually did, we went to the Hinsdale house like a Friday night, and then the Saturday night we went to Wildwood Sanatorium in Salamanca.
Salamanca, yeah.
Salamanca, yeah. So we ended up doing. We didn't, spend the whole time there. Now, and then this time, it was all just Hinsdale. So we got there Friday. So we stayed. We actually slept in the place. Friday night we were there. Saturday, slept Saturday night, and then went back Sunday. And the group I was with this time wasn't really a paranormal group. It was more of like a group of parapsychology and scientific guys trying to see what's going on there.
Well, that's interesting. So then, I would think, so my team has been there several times. I've only been there once. And it's interesting because each time you go, you have a different guide or person that sets you up in the house. And the house is very small. This is not a large home by any means, but it is interesting because I feel like sometimes the guide sets the tone. And, I think we're very suggestible, but it would be interesting to go with like a group of a whole different energy to the space if you're with parapsychologists and scientists, right? Not necessarily just paranormal enthusiasts or lovers. I mean, you're there with people who are really going to get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of what that house is all about.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a whole different way. It was a different way, but it was interesting, and it really made me think about how I do things. Amateur ghost hunting, but yeah, a different vibe. It was more, kind of really, it was very structured, organized, and there were some things we're trying to collect. Now, I can't give a lot of details because it's going to be part of a book that's being written. So I got to kind of,
absolutely,
that kind of thing. But it was a different approach, but in a good way.
Yeah,
in a good way, and it kind of, it helped keep you grounded a little bit more. I think, being there with the guys I was with this year versus, going with paranormal team. The paranormal team I went with was awesome too. Spirit Guides Paranormal. But I think you tend to start getting fired up. You try to let your imagination run away. Where I think with the guys this year was kind of more, I don't know if that was anything, and things like that.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was an interesting approach or interesting way they did things. It kind of, in a way, it's kind of the same thing, but we were collecting data.
Right.
Like instead of the cat toy going off, we were trying to collect numbers that we can run and do statistical analysis on and see, it was a particular incident. Was it significant or not significant? Was a cat toy going off? Is that significant or not significant? Based on the environment. So that was a kind of different approach. It was still kind of the same idea of trying to pick up on anomalous energies. But the idea was trying to see, was it a significant or not significant experience and, and all that kind of stuff and trying to understand. The other thing that was cool was this year we had a lot of time. So I actually wandered around outside on the property and I went down to where the hanging tree used to be. It's actually knocked over now. And then I talked to some of the neighbors, and some of the neighbors had said that they gave me a little more history about there used to be another building on the property down where the hanging tree was that was the original haunted house. Cause they're like, they go, oh yeah, down there is a foundation of the original haunted house. So there wasn't, I guess, another building down there, on that property. And then I guess with the hanging tree, it was a mother and a baby got hung together because the baby the mom had the baby out of wedlock. And supposedly they're buried on that property. In fact, the neighbors I talked to, one guy, he does a 4Runner or a little 4-wheel vehicle. And he's like, we even made our tracks so we don't go over the grave anymore because they used to go over the grave. So I guess they take it pretty seriously. So it's kind of cool to get to wander. And I wandered up in the woods. Last year when I was there, we had seen all these weird lights in the trees. So I was trying to wander through and kind of see what that was all about. And so I had a lot of time this time to kind of really explore more and get out there and things like that.
Listen, and it's a very interesting area. Not too far from that location is lots of Native American, but there's this, oh gosh, what is it called? Now my memory is going to totally bust out on me here. But it's like not a tar lake, but like there's a little water area that oil comes in. It's very sacred to the Native Americans. So, I mean, that whole area, Western New York, Pennsylvania, like all that whole area is just steeped in lots of history.
There is a vibe there. I don't know how I'd say it. I don't know if it's a bad vibe, but you kind of wonder, like I was telling the guys when I was there, you like to be able to talk to more of the neighbors to see, is it just that house or is it that area? Because that area kind of has a strange feel to it.
So I'm going to just give you a little, I know and my sister Debbie is here. The other sister is who I explore with because she's from Western New York. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I have explored every inch of that Western New York area. I have been up every hill, every mountain, every small town. We have explored it all. We have gotten out, we've gotten the looks. It is that entirety of Western New York. It is very, they keep to themselves. If you are even remotely different when you're walking into restaurants like this, they look at you like, I mean, we were like, what do we have, 3 heads? Like they just look at you like you're crazy. So I think they're very secretive about what they share, what they don't share, and who they want to share it with there. It is a very unique area. We've not really crossed over to the Pennsylvania area, so I don't know if it is similar in Pennsylvania, but I can tell you that whole part of Western New York I don't think you're going to get that much. And I don't, there's some amazing books about the paranormal phenomenon in that area. And I don't know if they like it or hate it, because it does bring people out to explore their woods, the crazy lights in the woods. This is something that's very common in Western New York. Yeah. I think some people call them fairy lights. Some people call them ghost lights. They're kind of all over the place on that, but
I ended up seeing those last year. Mm-hmm. We really didn't see any this year. Of course, we weren't outside too much, but so I don't know, but I was still doing a lot of evidence review. I ran the DVR system for like 2 days, and then the guys were doing they did a lot of data collection with EMF and magnetic fields and things like that. We did have a pretty cool thing happen, but I don't think I can say too much about it.
Yeah, we don't give anything away.
Yeah, we did have some physical thing happen, not to us, but to an object that we had set up. Mm-hmm. So that was really cool, and it was pretty interesting. So there was some, I guess I'd say there was some action there, but it wasn't like scary, and we slept there. Okay. In fact, one of the guys said he slept there the best he's ever slept.
It is quiet.
Yeah, he did. We were picking on him like, dude, he fell asleep, and he slept till like 11 hours or something.
Wow.
I had a hard time sleeping, but I don't really sleep that well, and all that. So, but it was cool. In fact, we're debating about whether we're going to go back again and maybe do a follow-up investigation. So that's still on the works.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's very when you go, like you going with that attitude of going for the numbers. I mean, basically that's what I'm hearing from you. Like you're collecting the data, you're going for numbers. So it's kind of like what you kind of said. It's a whole different mindset. When you're with the paranormal team, you do get jacked up, right? You're all excited and what are we going to catch? And now you're like, we're down to business. We're down to numbers, right?
Yeah.
And so it kind of takes me to, can I mention a couple of the questions on that? I mean, that wasn't really secret, right? The questionnaire, because it was sent out.
No, yeah, the questionnaire. Yeah, you can ask it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can go through the questionnaire.
So some of the questions on there, they were very interesting because, like I think one of them, I think I read this correctly, was, and I should have it pulled up in front of me and I do not, but it was like, do you connect with your childhood? I feel like feelings were the word. And I had to really sit with that one, because I'm like,
what does that mean?
What does that? Because you answered these questions by numbers. So like, right, 5 being whatever and 0 being, and so I was like, okay, do I connect with my childhood feelings? Like I'm not going to lie. I didn't answer that one right away, but you cannot submit the questionnaire until you answer all the questions. I'm like, So I might have lied about that first one, because I wasn't 100% sure what that question was leading to.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, and to be honest, so Brandon made that questionnaire, and we took it afterwards.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure what to put either, but I think the idea was getting at the idea if you're a sensitive person and you're, and you're like really like tuned into your feelings and emotions and all that versus somebody who's kind of more stoic and more business-like. Okay. I think that was kind of trying to get at that sense of, how in tune are you with yourself? Like, are you a real sensitive person that you remember your childhood feelings and those kind of things? And how does that translate into experiences you have, potential paranormal experiences? One, the whole idea of, are you a more sensitive person? And if you are a more sensitive person, in general, are you more likely to experience paranormal occurrences? Yeah. So I think that was the whole thing with the childhood thing, is if you're in tune with your childhood feelings, and maybe you're more introspective and more of a, sensitive and.
Oh, I left that. I left that person back. But maybe my sister's here. What do you think, Deborah? Do you think I'm in touch with those? I mean, I don't remember anything from my childhood.
Deborah, I see Deborah ask, no, I didn't have any weird dreams. No.
Oh. That would have been my question too.
Right.
No, the only thing that was weird when I was sleeping, both nights. So the first night when I went to go to sleep, I slept in Mike's room, and that's where the case fell. That's where the thing fell off the shelf. It didn't happen for me, but right when I laid down, I heard a lady's voice, I thought, in the kitchen. Oh. And then the second night I slept in the living room, on one of the couches. And I thought once I laid down, the guys were upstairs. I thought I heard some footsteps and shuffling in the kitchen. Ooh. So, but no weird dreams. I don't think the guys had weird dreams. Yeah. I don't think Brandon slept real well. I know. So it's just, so not all of us. So it was me, Brandon, and this guy, Shane. We stayed in the house. And then Dave, who came with us, he stayed in a hotel because his wife came along, but they had their dog and stuff. So, so between the three of us, Shane was the one who slept like a rock. Okay. And then I never sleep well. I don't know, Brandon, I don't know how well Brandon slept. He didn't say one way or another, but I know he got up early and left the next day. So to my knowledge, no, we had weird dreams, but I don't know. And we're actually going to have a meeting again this week about kind of where we're at, analyzing the data and kind of going through things and all that. So
can you share this as the medical doctor? Did you do anything about keeping track of how everybody was feeling, or I don't know, heart rate, pulse, temperatures, like anything like that? Did you do any physical medical?
No, we didn't do any of the vital sign monitoring, but we kind of talked about our experiences and all that kind of thing. And then Brandon was kind of like the team leader. He kind of wrote down if we had any experiences and feelings like that. So nobody had any definite medical things. So.
Do you ever do that on any of your investigations? Do you ever, like, if somebody's freaking out, or if somebody's like feeling or ramping up to, I feel like I'm having this, or I just saw this, right? Like, do you take any vitals?
No, I usually don't, but that's an interesting thing. Now, I have had to have people kind of like take some deep breaths and, relax. You're going to be okay. Let's go outside. So I have had to kind of do the doctor thing when somebody gets overwhelmed by stuff. Like it's, I remember I was someplace in, I think it was Octagon House in southwestern Virginia, and somebody started feeling pretty bad. So you sit down and kind of relax, and you'll check, maybe just cursory feel their pulse, and they'll be kind of racing. Yeah. No, I haven't checked any vital signs. Like I haven't actually ran and seen those kind of things. So
okay, so back to the questionnaire, and then some of what the questions were. So it kind of runs through how you explained it beautifully. So just kind of how in touch you are with your own feelings, with your own, what you're experiencing. And then it would be, if you've been to the Hinsdale house, then it started asking those questions like, did you have any experiences in this room, on this floor, in the kitchen, in the basement? And I'm will be so interested to hear. Now, when I got to visit the Hinsdale house, I think there was flooding down in the basement. It's a pretty bad basement. I mean, it's not a great situation. And what the worst part of it all, and I don't know if it's still like this, you'll have to confirm this, but so when we went, it was the so you go into the bathroom and you're on the toilet, and the door is right in front of you to go down to the basement, but you're like hand on the door to the basement while you're on the toilet, because you're like, no, don't like it.
Well, people supposedly hear scratching and knocking on the bathroom door when they're in the toilet. Yeah,
I'm sure they do. Yeah. Best place to be when you hear scratching and knocking on a door is to be on that toilet. But so I'm curious, like, we didn't get to go down to the basement. Debbie, I don't know if you got to go down in the basement when you were there. So we've all kind of gone at different times. My
She's saying
oldest
she
sister
won't go down there. So.
she won't go down there. Yeah, it's pretty, and I think it's pretty gross. I mean, it's an old, and there's been lots of flooding, so I think it's just a bad situation altogether. But I'll be curious to hear when they get that data back, like where people had the most experiences.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of famous people who go to the Hinsdale house and have very big experiences. I can't go in the house without wanting to throw up. I get this, I get that. Yeah. So it's interesting because when I was there, it's just kind of an old musty house. We went in the summertime, so it was hot and it gets very close. The windows aren't in good condition. So then you start to wonder if any of that situation, being old, being dusty, does that affect how people are having experiences? And I know some of the questions kind of allude to weather change. If the weather is changing, do you feel that? Do you get affected by that?
Right.
So it's interesting.
Or is there something in the house too? I mean, with old electronics and appliances, could something be contributing to, the spooky factor? Just, is it EMF or sound, that kind of stuff? Mm-hmm. So yeah. The basement. So I didn't realize this. One of the guys there was, all the guys were super smart. Right. It made me kind of feel like I needed to be smart. And everybody I go out with is smart. I don't mean that to come out the wrong way, but I mean, like these guys analyze everything. But I guess the way the basement was built, it was built so the water would pass through it, I guess. Okay. So they stacked up the rocks are from it's like sedimentary rock is how they explained it. And they stacked them up, but they didn't use any mortar between the rocks. So that way, because the property's so wet, actually, when we were there, it was wet the whole time, even though it didn't rain that much. And there's a spring in the back, and then there's a pond, and then there's creeks everywhere. So it was constantly wet there. And we did go in the basement. We could go in there, but we really didn't investigate. None of us really felt super motivated to investigate down there. Yeah. But I guess the way the basement's built, it's made so the water actually would go through it.
Okay.
Like nowadays we build them to be watertight.
Sure.
But back in the time period, I guess it was built because they figured the water is going to pass the house, and that would help it from like causing a lot of damage if the water could just easily go through. So I didn't realize that, but it makes sense when you look at the way the basement is built. It's just stacked up rocks.
Yeah.
The wall, and I guess the water easily passes through then.
That's interesting. So, and then we if you're a paranormal investigator or enthusiast, one of the theories is water is an amazing conduit, right? Yeah. And an amazing conduit to paranormal experiences. So perhaps.
And that's one of the things I noticed too. There's tons of water. Like even when we drove around, I mean, there's a creek out in front of the property. There's another creek running along the side. So it just seems like you kind of wonder how much of that fuels the energy there too, because it's kind of surrounded. I mean, there's water coming down the back. There's water all around. There's the pond. So you wonder how much of that, if that helps fuel the energies for the place.
And it certainly could. I mean, anybody's got a great theory out there. I mean, and plus just being, I don't know what land wouldn't really be Native American land, but, just kind of starting from that east and moving, you just kind of wonder, like, I don't know. And how much of that, especially if some of that has, I really have to go back and look at my pictures. Why wouldn't I do that before I came on the show? There's a picture, because I took a picture of this really cool, like Native American area, and they have it kind of fenced off. It's a little park. You can go back to this really creepy area, and nobody would know.
Is that by Hinsdale?
It is. It's, so opposite of Salmoneca's on one side, and this little town is, it's actually not a little town, it's a little bit bigger, is on the other side. And it's just got great, and there's a reservation right there in between Hinsdale and this particular water thing that has like oil or gas or something that's coming out of just the middle of it. It's the craziest situation, but yeah, you do have to wonder, like, how much of all that does play in. And I don't know how much you guys dug into this, but I know when my sisters and I have gone there, and the one that's here, Deborah, is amazing when it comes to research, but there's a lot of holes in the stories and the history that it's not very consistent. Sometimes people fit the history to a story at the house, but then you find out that wasn't what happened at the house. It happened miles away. So, again, then you go into the suggestibility to this location, because, the hanging tree is a perfect example. Nobody is consistent on if this hanging tree actually existed. I mean,
Right.
obviously a tree existed, but was it this hanging tree? I think being a stagecoach stop, that's kind of been a big story on the Hinsdale house. And then they're like,
I just can't see that. Yeah, I can't see it being a stagecoach stop.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts were. It doesn't seem like I don't know why the stagecoach should be doing up there.
It wasn't because it wasn't really it wouldn't be a main throughway.
Yeah, it was up the hill kind of off. It's like, it didn't make any sense about that either.
Yeah. So sometimes, you do have to wonder, like, do we build these stories up? So it will be very interesting to hear with this questionnaire, just, how much data they're collecting and what is causing us to have these experiences. And it's still an anomaly. Again, I'm not trying to debunk anybody's, paranormal experience. How much of it's actually paranormal and how much of it is just an anomaly.
Yeah.
The world's pretty crazy, right? The earth is pretty crazy in what it can do.
Yeah.
Well, I know personally, I was afraid. So about a year or two before I went up there with spirit guides, the old team I used to be with, Twisted Paranormal, they were going to go, and I had seen the show with Nick Groff, and I'd seen a couple other shows, and I'm like, no way in hell am I going there. No way am I going there, So, and I was really scared of the place. And then, so when I got a chance to go with Spirit Guides Paranormal, I was still a little apprehensive, but I'm like, I wasn't I wasn't afraid of it. I was pretty afraid, a year or two beforehand. And then once I got there, I'm like, well, this isn't that frightening at all. And, and then even going back, I was curious to see what it'd be like going back.
Yeah.
And again, it was that same kind of experience. It just seems like like an older farmhouse out there. And, each time we had some things happen. So there does seem to be some activity there. I don't know what level it rises to. And I don't know if it's, when we were there this time, there was a couple of teams that were there right before us. So you kind of wonder too, if there is a lot of spirit activity there, do they get worn out? Because there was like a team there the night before we were there, then a team the weekend before we were there. So it seems like it's constantly investigating. So I don't know if that plays a role in how much experiences you have, because the other teams messaged me on my Instagram like, oh, we had all this happen and all that happen. And like, well, you guys must have tired them out because we didn't have a whole lot with us. But we did have some cool things. There was a really big cool thing to happen. But so I think there's something there for sure. But
Well, with the scientists, since their mind goes to try and debunk and make it more natural, did any of them come out of it like saying that they rethought that maybe they thought that they had an actual paranormal experience? Or can you share that?
I think we all kind of left with kind of how we went into it. I don't think anybody was like really went one way or another. I think we all had some interesting things, but it wasn't like, oh my God, groundbreaking. And then the flip side was it wasn't completely, quiet either. So I think we kind of left as like there's more work to be done kind of thing. And then also we collected so much information that we got to still process all that and go through all that. Mm-hmm. I think we all kind of left like still kind of curious and, and kind of we need to go back and, we did find some potential answers for some things.
So that'll be interesting to hear. I think that's good though. So then it was good enough that they're like, we need to come back and see this again.
Yeah.
And I would think, would it be helpful, and especially because some of the questions on there talking about weather, talking about feelings, all this stuff, like, would it be beneficial to take it a step further? So you should maybe go at different times of the year. Like, it wouldn't be fun to be up there in the wintertime because how would you even get up there, right? Sometimes, but like, could you go different times of the year and then bring along people that, like, once you gather that data from the questionnaire, do you take that person that has, like me, like, okay, you're not getting any experiences. Now let's take this person that does. And kind of like what Maureen's asking you, if you have gifts, do your experiences, are they bigger if you have certain gifts? So if you start to bring those people with you where you can measure what's going on data wise and what's going on in the atmosphere and all that kind of good stuff along with these people, could that also benefit kind of the study you guys are looking for? Because you guys are just going in there scientifically and looking, and you have to get the base, right? You get the base of the house. Right. So that would make sense to me. But now if you really want to understand how people are experiencing it, do you take these extremes, you know, an extreme skeptic or a person that loves paranormal that doesn't really get big paranormal experiences? I'll do it. You know, or, you know, somebody that gets really crazy experiences, you know, if
not, and actually that's a great idea. It would be good to go back in with the scientific equipment and somebody who's sensitive, somebody who tends to have a lot of interactions, or even somebody like you're saying who has a history of having some pretty profound interactions at the Hinsdale house, and see what happens when, you know, will that person have experiences again? Right. And if they do, what can you document on your equipment? You know, so so it would be a pretty good, it would be a good angle on it.
This probably be an ongoing, like you'd have to do this for years, right? Like to get a good, and I'm curious too, like, you know, if you follow Rob's story on Get Haunted, he shared with Adrian Perrin, he's had a very profound experience at the Conjuring house. So because he had such a big experience there, now going to a house like Hinsdale, who also has some big claims, would he have something similar? Could he also have a big experience there? Is it him? Is it the location in him? You know, I just, it's a very, to me, you know, that's why I get stuck sometimes on not even experiencing paranormal. I get stuck on observing the people doing it, because it's just like, it's just fascinating. It's intriguing to see what's going on, you know, and I probably am missing all sorts of paranormal stuff because I'm too busy staring at the living.
You're people watching.
That's right. People watching. That's right. That's right.
Well, it's curious for me too, because even on like my, you know, I help out with a lot of public investigations. So it's always interesting to see how different people respond, and people that are more sensitive on the public investigations, and they'll tune into things that nobody else is tuning into. And, you know, and then a lot of times they're right. They'll be sensing something, and then we'll get, you know, some kind of validation with a piece of equipment or EVP or something like that. So,
was there a piece of equipment that you love to use at the Hinsdale house? Like and I know you weren't really maybe doing so much the paranormal, you weren't the Haunted MD paranormal and going in there, but like when you're there, is there something that calls to you the most equipment wise?
So, I mean, for me, you know, EVP for me is something that's really cool, because you know, on a lot of investigations, because if I can capture a good EVP, that's something I could play and show people like, hey, you know, especially somebody who's real skeptical, like, well, how do you explain this? You know, and, you know, there's no reason for this. Or so EVP, at this particular time, I kept telling the guys about when I was there before, we had interaction with the cat toys, the touch activated cat toy in a particular chair in the living room. And I think they were kind of like, yeah, whatever, you know, and I'm like, okay. So one of the nights I said, I'm gonna put the cat toys here. And sure enough, the cat toys went off.
Yeah.
Now I don't know, like, you know, we were running some equipment and stuff. So I don't know if we had any stuff to coordinate with that, but it was for me, it was validation, because I kind of feel like here I am with these cat balls, and these guys have their scientific equipment. And, you know, so it made me feel good to have the cat toy go off. So for me, I always talk about, for me, it's really cool when you have something that has to be physically interacted with, like the cat toy or a motion sensor, or you catch an EVP, or, you know, or you catch a good picture or something. Yeah. So for me, it's because something physically has touched that, you know. Yeah. You know, and as far as I know, the cat toys, they don't have like a built-in timer and those kind of things. So something has to either shake it or touch it, you know, and those cat toys hadn't gone off, you know, like as if there was a vibration in the floor or whatever. And even jumping up and down on the floor in front of it, it wouldn't make it go off, because one of the guys was really skeptical. And I'm like, let me show you. So I tapped on the floor and nothing would happen. And then later on, the cat toy went off in the chair. So it was kind of refreshing.
See, once again, these cat toys are going to jump in price because every show somebody mentions a cat toy, the cat balls, and next thing you know, they were $3, they're going to be $35. They're going to be selling out of them.
Then another cool story along the same lines, not from Hinsdale, but from Miller Kite. I go to Miller Kite Museum in Elkton. My good friend Cherie Breeden, she has Lunar Paranormal, and we investigate there a lot and do public investigations. But my sister came in town from Ohio, and my niece, and they're like, hey, can you take us someplace? You know, and I'm like, well, let me see if I can get us a Miller Kite, because it's not too far from me. And it seems to be, we have consistent activity there. So I talked to my friend Cherie, and she let us get in there. So it was me, my sister, and my niece. And I was a little worried, because, you know, sometimes when you want to show off something, or you want something to happen, it won't. Yeah. But we got in there. We were only in there for like maybe 20, 30 minutes, and I was setting up motion sensor. I got this couple 360 motion pods, and they sense in the 4 directions. So I took one upstairs and I put it up on the landing between the 2 rooms where we've caught activity there. Came back downstairs. I wasn't even downstairs more than a couple of minutes. Right away, that motion sensor started going off. I was shocked because for me, that's something had to physically make that go off, and so I was blown away. And I was actually glad my sisters could have that experience, or my niece could have that experience. And it went off a couple different times. And then while we were downstairs, one of the times it went off, we heard shuffling. We were shuffling upstairs, and there wasn't anybody else in the house. So then we went from downstairs to upstairs to investigate, and I put the motion sensor downstairs, and where we had just been, the bottom of the stairs, it started going off. It was the craziest thing. I'm like, I was happy that for my family, but I also was happy for me. I'm like, holy cow. But it kind of goes back to the whole thing, like being a science guy, it's good when you have something like that go off versus like a K2, because people, really dismiss a K2 and dismiss the REM pods and all this. But it's like when you got something motion, or you got something you got to touch, or, something you catch on camera, or something audio phenomena. I mean, those are hard to dispute, and something you can use to kind of prove or help prove that, the existence of things. So.
Well, you get good stuff. I definitely, I think you've got some fans over here that I have to say, definitely watch what you're doing. And I always love, outside of, you going to the Hinsdale or whatever, I love when you're like at the hospital and you're like in your room, you'll be like, okay, I'm going to set this up because I saw something, or I write, or I see if I catch anything. And I'm always like, I don't know. Like, I know I do it in my house too, but I just doing it at work. This is like, I don't know if I'd want to see that.
That's crazy, man. It's been active too there. I didn't, things have been happening. I just don't have a chance to catch. And I've been really busy this last week, but, the other day I heard a lady's voice in the office. There wasn't anybody in there. Another day, the same week, last week, I came in. I was working by myself. They only have one doctor out there now during the day, so I've been working by myself. And I came in the office, and I swore that there was somebody else in the office. I opened the door, and then I could hear like noises, and because you can't see the whole office, it's kind of weird. You walk in, and you can kind of see 2 computers, one to your left, one to your right. You go straight back, and there's like a table, a TV, and a fridge. And then there's 2 sleeping work areas that are off around the corner that you got to kind of look around. So I came in and I heard all this like banging like a computer. And I'm like, every now and then somebody will come over and use our area because we have this really nice space, and it's separate from the main hospital. So it's a little more cozy, but it's still, all the computers still attached to the hospital system and all that. But anyways, I thought somebody came over just to hang out and do their work over with me. And there was nobody there, but it clearly sounded like, and then the bathroom light came on again the other day by itself. And
do you find you have more activity now that you've been doing it for a while?
It seems like it, maybe. It seems like it.
Okay.
It seems like it.
Yeah. Do you think it's more activity, or you're more aware because now you're in that mindset of like, right? Like you kind of know, like the more you investigate, you start to be like, oh, right. Yeah. I'm hearing that, or I'm noticing that more, where before you were just at work,
It's a good question, because I think it was probably a combination that, you're open to it more. Yeah. And maybe it happens more, but a lot of times it's unexpected. Like the lady voice I was just sitting there doing my stuff, and I heard this, like right in my ear. And then, coming in the office the other day was just spontaneous. Like I'm not really looking for it. And sometimes it's weird when I am looking for it. Yeah. Nothing will happen.
Right.
Sometimes I feel like I got to set up a camera and just let it run the whole time I'm working.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But that's universe, right? That's universe. When you're looking for love, you can't find it. When you're not looking for love, it falls right in your lap. So
yeah. Well, the thing about our place too is that where I work, it's it's consistently. It's not just me. Like the nurses tell me stuff. The maintenance guys, cleaning lady, the lady. There's a lady who sits by the desk, at the front door, and she has stories. So. It's like this, it's consistent through the building, now I know we share our stories, and maybe there is some of that, kind of group hysteria thing, but a lot of people seem to have these, different security guys will tell you about things. So something about that building and the land where I work that, seems to have a lot of activity.
Yeah. Producing something.
Yeah. We do have one last question for you. It says, put a TV in your office bathroom for the white noise experiment. The towels rolling on their own was cool.
Yes. Yes. Maybe I'll have to do that.
So do you have an idea of who is in your bathroom at the office? Can you figure it out?
It kind of seems like it's a pass-through spot. I don't know if you guys saw one of my videos I posted. I think that a passed on physician was interacting with me.
Oh.
I don't want to say too much. The dentist give me, like any personal stuff away. But two of my doctor friends had died around the time where I started having all this crazy activity, and I was using the REM pod the one time, and I used a cat toy the other time, and it seemed like I was interacting with one of my deceased physician friends.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of interesting. And then there's been times where I think it's been a patient. Yeah, I won't post that stuff because it's it's privacy. But there was a couple of years ago where the REM pod was going off in one of the bathrooms, and I'm like, "Are you so and so?" And it was like, beep, 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 beep. And
wow.
Here was one of the guys one of the patients who had passed on. Huh. The cool thing I get too as a physician is I get a lot of families who follow my stuff, and they'll reach out to me, after they're home, and they'll say, "Oh my God, I think mom was here. Yeah, because the lights were flickering or this and that." So it's kind of cool to get that feedback too. So a lot of people, a lot of patients and families are open to it and all that. So yeah, I think there might be some ones that hang around, but it seems like people kind of pass through. Yeah. So I don't know, like if our office, I'm not a big portal believer, but sometimes I'm wondering if our office is a portal, So.
Well, and perhaps, it is a place where, people, right, life and death, and maybe it's just kind of that energy that builds up. And so maybe it is the perfect portal. Well, we've come to our almost our 58-minute mark. It's always so sad when our hour goes by so fast. It does. It does go by fast. I know. Can we have an after party? We're going to plan more of those for sure. But yes, we will for sure have Dr. Molnar back because
down the road, if you want, later on, I'll be able to say much more about Hinsdale. It's just right now we're still processing it, and like I said, it's a special project of Brandon's, and well, kind of all of us, but Brandon's kind of the team leader of it all. And so once we get to a point where the information's out there, I think I can share a lot more about. Oh yeah, we had a super cool experience. I like to say, but I don't want to say too much right now about it.
Yeah, no, and I'll get the book for sure. I think that will be very interesting, and I hope that they continue this experiment and build on it because I think there's so much more.
It's a great idea.
And I think Brandon's still collecting surveys. I think you can still collect surveys if you want to do the survey about Hinsdale. I think. See if it's still available because I know he was trying to get as much surveys as he could.
Okay.
And so.
Well, maybe I'll go and see if I can find that link, and then we'll add it to the show the show notes, so you guys can click the link and answer some of those questions because they're very, very interesting. And I don't know that these are the kind of questions that are out there for everybody. I mean, they're definitely a unique set of questions. So
yeah, I'd love to read it.
Yeah. So I just want to thank Dr. Molnar. You are seen, you are validated here, you are loved, and you are one of our favorites. Obviously, the Blondes' favorites and our friends of the show. Everybody.
Well, you guys are my favorite too. One of my favorites.
So we will have you back and we will talk more about your adventures in Haunted MD. Dee Dee, like always, great show with you. We always say we look forward to our Mondays. It used to be Wednesdays, now it's Mondays.
Yes.
And honestly, all our people on the side here having a chat, we just love you. Your support means the world to us.
Yes.
And our wonderful producer, Race, thank you so much for everything that you do for us. And guys, next Monday, we've got Rob from Get Haunted and Michelle Roos right here from the X talking about the world's largest ghost hunt. So do not miss that show because you're going to want to hear about it. So that's it for us tonight, and we will catch you guys next week.
Bye.